many of you like yeast bread? I love yeast bread like this stuff here. It is delicious. But it's a process, and it's a chemical process actually, and so it would be an easy lesson to talk about with your students in terms of chemistry. So I have a half cup of warm water. It can't be boiling because it will kill your yeast. Your yeast obviously is a live product, even though it certainly doesn't look that way. So we're going to add to this yeast a teaspoon of granulated sugar, and we're just going to mix that granulated sugar up in that warm water to get it to dissolve. And again, that's even a chemistry lesson in terms of dissolving. Again, colloids and emulsions and those kinds of things would all fit into that category. Then we are going to take, and if you don't know what yeast looks like, those are live little fellows. They certainly don't look live, but what's going to happen is when they're added to the warm water, they are going to become live again. And they've sort of been in a state of stillness during that period of time that they've been in the package. And there's all kinds of yeast that you can buy. This one is Rapid Rise. There's a couple of different kinds that you can buy. So mix this together, and what we're going to do in this cup is we're just going to proof the yeast. Now, because yeast is a live product, sometimes it gets old and it doesn't cause the bread to rise, which is the whole point of doing yeast bread. Yeast bread starts out as something very flat. You mix it together. I've included a recipe in the notebook, and it would be easy for you to make bread with your students. But use the yeast. In 15 minutes it will rise. You punch it down, and that's literally what it sounds like. You punch it down, let it rise a second time, and then put it in your pan, let it rise a third time, and then bake it. So within an hour you can have a nice loaf of yeast bread like this one. But what we're going with this experiment is to talk about the proofing, to make sure that the yeast actually is alive and that it's doing its job, that I haven't left the yeast in the pantry too long and it has died as a result. So, and by the way, there's directions on the back of the package that say how to keep your yeast alive. So interesting explanation back there about how to do that. So we're going to leave this for about 10-15 minutes, and then we're going to come back and look and see what happens. If the yeast is alive, then it will have bubbled and expanded similarly to what it does when you bake yeast bread. It will have risen. So we'll wait and see how the yeast proofs.